Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
The Ugandan National Museum, a place where unforgettable memories are created. Traditions are found and a connection to our Paul is reinforced. It is not only a testimony to the history of our nation, but also impacts knowledge of cultural and natural heritage to the present and future generations for their enjoyment. Through a variety of activities and exhibitions, we gather to discover our traditions and create new ones. The Uganda Museum is our country's cultural icon that makes it accessible for the next generations to come together as our story unfolds and represents the interplay of our country's past and present. It is in our history, but also in how it has evolved to embrace optical satisfaction and new influences. Our identity as a country is not only a moment in time, but also a journey of where we have been, where we are, and where we are going. We invite you to experience the authentic heritage, rich history of Uganda. Welcome to the Uganda National Museum.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
YouTube channel of Uganda. Every Monday we are here speaking governance, politics, democracy, rule of law, human rights, to mention but a few. My name is Norman Tumuhimbise, sitting in the hotline show with our usual panel, for lack of another word, which always we have our two permanent panelists, that is Honorable Major Retired Awich Pollar, who is yet to arrive in a few minutes from now, alongside Mr. Ochieno Joseph. He's a gentleman looking for, I don't know whether he will tell us in a few minutes to come, because there is that argument when we interact with him and we're like, okay, so how many UPCs do we have? We have what is pure red, then some bit of cream, rather maroonish. So there are so many UPCs to some people out there. But he has, I don't want to say that you have a faction, but at least you are the constitutionally elected leader of UPC, or you're still in court. Maybe for clarity, of course, to our viewers.
I have just returned from West Nile on national duties. And I was telling particularly younger members of the party and friends of the party and some of the elders, something that I've always maintained, and that UPC is the best political party, was the best political party, historically provided for this country.
Part of my second, because I was still doing my intro, what do you hold?
I'll give you that, I'll tell you that. But that is also the party of the future. That I tell the people, and that's the position. However, that UPC, which is this very great, is a party that at the moment is almost technically leaderless. Akena occupies Uganda House by force, not with the mandate of the party members, nor with the constitution.
Then Walubiri, Council Walubiri?
Yeah, but let me just give you an organized cycle that looks. So Akena does that because he forced himself in and forced a chest over a lot of them, because it's important for your viewers, because they get generally quite confused by that. Despite High Court, Court of Appeal, and Supreme Court ruling against Akena, he's there. But he's there with the privilege of the establishment. So he's in Uganda House. So he's not party president. definitively. Walubiri was somebody who took over from Joseph Bossa before Joseph Bossa died. Bossa was Olaro Tunu's vice president, and Olaro handed over to Joseph Bossa. When the Court of Appeal asked for fresh elections in the party, dismissing Akena's appeal, fresh elections took place in which Walubiri participated, a Dr. Dixon Opul, a Dr. Dan Okello, and myself. I won those elections, and I won them very convincingly. Walubiri and his team decided to fudge the results. And despite my spirited attempts to have this managed, internally, it wasn't possible, so I was compelled to go to court. Unfortunately, when I went to court, I was hoping that the judicial process would be fair to me. And this is a matter of judicial review that should have taken 6 months in 2021, and I thought it would help us resolve this leadership issue very quickly. I'm giving you this thing important considering the topic we're going to be discussing. Yes. So unfortunately, the judicial review that should take 6 months has now taken 4 years. 4 years,
right.
and 3 months. And so I am the president of the party, but I have opted not to declare or call myself president. This is something subject to review.
I had wanted to avoid the word, but I will not avoid it because at least I know you may not take offense. You are the street president. There's the one. There's the one in the hopeful. No, one is in office. Yourself, you have your office on. It's a mobile office. So I think you are. Are you a mobile president of UPC?
By the way, some guys, some of Akena's cheeky boys, once upon a time called me the president of the media. So it's very interesting.
The media president of UPC.
And by then they were trying to. I think, of course, people play politics with these things. But no, I am I'm the president of the party with all authority, except I have opted not to.
You have no seal. You can't authentify any document.
In a way, you can call it. But let me tell you this. Akena's seal is actually an illegitimate and illegal seal. Walubiri's seal is a contested seal. You don't see Walubiri anywhere. So he's somewhere. And yourself,
you are contested by the other two.
Yeah. So it's a bit very confusing at the top leadership. To be fair to people who don't like UPC, they will be very much smiling.
We'll get into
but that is the confusion we have.
Get into that. That's pure politics within politics, and you sometimes wonder on how far this can go. On our extreme end, we have. Sometimes he has so many titles. He used to have UPM.
He's still UPM.
I don't know how far he has from that. He's former NRA. He's former everything. Mr. Vianney, say hello to our viewers.
Don't tell me he also has a street office now.
Most likely, what makes this show interesting is that by God's grace, we have people who brought the government in power. Him in particular left it, but he's sitting with a person he overthrew. Very sad to not say hello to our viewers.
So
it's all your fault, please.
You remember the other word, the mandate. So you have the mandate.
Good evening, our viewers. And I will not personally be selfish, but I will only help my counterpart. The problem now and the syndrome in UPC is not an unintended one. When they brought what they call Obote Foundation, the law takes it to an estate. It must go by powers of administration when you go to court, letters of administration. So
but the letters of administration legally should not run the political party.
If they brought Obote Foundation, taking it in the central enclave of UPC, UPC became an estate. When it becomes an estate, must go to Akena, not to the members. It was supposed to be UPC Foundation, not Obote Foundation, because Obote was a member of UPC and by elective mandate, a president of UPC.
And the founding father of the foundation itself.
The founders, you can't found a party alone.
No, I mean the foundation, the
foundation
itself.
Yes.
So you find the confusion now becoming like it's an amalgamation of the party and the foundation,
which
has caused Mr. Ochieno trouble.
Should do. winnow out the foundation and
Do you-
remain with the...
I don't know whether it's a correct question for you or Mr. Ochieno, on whether perhaps the fear of Honorable Akena is that once you take the party, onto the right pocket of the party will be the foundation. So you take away You want to say
I
something
think-
just before we can go back to...
No, I think it's important, but just to further re-clarify, particularly for the younger viewers, but in politics also, the naming of the Milton Obote Foundation, you bring an interesting context, is a matter subject to review. But I think actually the founding leaders of both the party and the foundation were massive visionaries way back in 63, 64, particularly when the foundation was established. Political foundations have got no problems having named people. You know, the Friedrich Hebert in Germany,
Nelson Mandela.
the Mandelas and Morrison times. But if you talk about the traditional ones, then the Morrison, the Clinton foundations, the Ford foundations, these are not they're not problems. They're actually not. But particularly if you talk about the German foundations that actually support quite a lot of political organizations here. In fact, the Friedrich Hebert was part of the foundations that advised Ugandan nationalists before the formation of Ugandan National Congress in 51 or thereabout, that Ugandan activists, Ugandan progressive left, trade unionists, and others should actually form a political party in order to become a much more coherent force to campaign for our independence. So that is the Friedrich Hebert. So the naming is not the problem. The problem may be, as we're going to be discussing, this inability of some of us in Africa to respect institutions, to respect systems.
Independently. Let the
Yes,
foundation
and
do its
possibly
work.
one of the things I've also talked about, having bad winners. We tend to have bad losers. People don't want to acknowledge and take responsibility. And we also have bad winners that maybe, and I was just talking to another young Ugandan earlier today, in fact, two young Ugandans, I was doing my exercise in the morning on the road. I'm saying this why, that look, when you see Africans, immediately Ochieno adds $100,000 in his pocket. You see the manner of his walking changes. I change my car from Kawish to the next. Africans boast like that. Most other people who know wealth don't sort of do that. When then we take power, as you say that will now to become president of Uganda People's Congress on the 6th floor of Uganda House, how do I treat people like the Mbejas when they come to visit? How do I treat the weakest of the weak down Chikubo? I think that is important. So people who maybe by virtue of privilege of associating with the founding parents either by blood or by closeness begin now to assume ownership. I don't want to be rather harsh, but in a way for the foundation, that's part of the problem. There are people who now think they own the foundation. Milton Obote was very clear. He had no direct interest in the foundation. I worked with him very closely. In fact, I worked with him around some of these issues the last 10, 15 years of his life. At no time was this somebody who associated the foundation with his name or his family, but rather as a property for members of Uganda People's Congress. And most importantly, a property of the Uganda People's Congress, but a property whose job it was to serve all Ugandans across all the political divide. That is the position of the foundation. People just don't know that.
Okay, I will go back to Mr. Vianney Ngoma Matovu. Sorry, he had to clarify on some of these facts, but you still had your time and the mandate.
Yeah, sure.
Shall we proceed?
And so long as you don't go to the
Shall we
bush, I'll
proceed
give you away.
by of course saying hello to Ugandans and precisely how your week has been in 1 to 3 minutes. We shall come back to Mr. Ochieno.
The week was challenging.
When have you had a non-challenging week?
No way.
Every when we are here.
When you are a practical and a practitioner, you must face challenges every minute.
In life, revolutionary.
No, I look forward to that
For
week
us,
where you will say it's been a wonderful week.
No way.
Okay.
For us, we are only checking ourselves and being briefed by others on how we agreed with them to move with the governance. When we see the Electoral Commission staggering with its own words.
I want to. I will
In
reach
corrid-
there.
in corridors.
Even about your letter, I think I've read your
It
letter.
goes-
to-
So now you know why he's traumatized.
It goes back at hit the program. We had a program
you as who when you say we.
with the population of Uganda because the struggle was not a struggle of military, of parties and other factions. It was a struggle for Ugandans. That's why they called it popular struggle. They didn't call it anything, but few smart smugglers, this one who termed as bad winners, formed a cocoon by elitism to fully hide their hidden agendas inside there.
But Mr. Matovu, you see, sometimes we fail at a personal level to take your position, and one asks, why didn't you see these? You're calling them cocoons, these opportunists, while you were in the bush, so that you don't cry with us, or so that you don't invite us to cry with you. Didn't you see these symptoms when you were joining these people in the bush war?
This
Yes.
one has already opened our eyes that when you are still at the lower level or at the same pace with those you are struggling with, you are at the same match. But when you reach the highest level, you change. He gave us a live example. You can easily change. When you are on foot, you fly. When you are with a non-luxurious vehicle, you
Right.
change to luxurious, like that. And you start distancing because of fear of questions and queries and demands them. This is why they brought a word which is dangerous to our population called protocol. Protocol is like
Any organization, Mr. Vianney, needs a protocol. Because before one accesses my office, for instance, we'll have the first desk. So you wanted people to just move for another word.
protocol is a word to disconnect and disassociate with those whom you were with.
Protocol and bureaucracy. Those two words, they are like sisters. Protocol and bureaucracy.
Protocol. They even brought what they called appointment to first delay you and study how to dodge you. It is what they call appointment. Because you will first seek for it, they study, they have closed meetings where you are not involved, and they find means of making you either fail or be dodged.
I think when you talk about the appointment, it goes back to all of these forms we fill when you want to meet someone. So
Reason.
many of us put official, they ask you.
So in part also,
how official?
in part also, Matovu is telling you that, I think Besigye used this word, that they were duped. Very important for Ugandans. But also something that doesn't come out there very clearly, if you don't mind to emphasize,
You can.
is the fact that in the course of their initial struggles, they thought, one, they were all the same. They thought that everybody was for the same object. And in many cases, some of the people were pretending that, that those beers, I don't even touch those ones. So pretending to be the Mr. Nice in the corner, but people had their own hidden agenda, which I think is very important for us in politics. How we're able to deal with that may be a matter for the future, but I think that's what I get
let
from
him
that.
take advantage of his 1 minute, then we see how to proceed.
We shall not hinge much on that.
Yeah, the issue was a summary of your week.
Yeah, because
And you said it
the
is
summary
yours.
of the week, we are just seeing threats of suicide bomber. That's what they are telling us. And mostly suicide bombers being women.
Yeah.
In Munyonyo.
What
of
does that
Vincent
communicate?
Karerwe, suicide bombers. And how those suicide bombers are threatening the daily work. Because for us, we survive with trades, merchandise, and the like. If they threaten markets, we are yet to be self-styled in a way of COVID to leave other things for the security to man. Because now in Karelu, now they are not steady there. Because they were saying that they were targeting
the market.
the market, mosques, churches, and we are even yet everybody to pray from his home. Because if reports comes by that, and even suspicion, the problem is suspicion. And it is dangerous when we reach out the level of suspicion. Suspicion, I may be a genuine personnel coming here with no ill motive, but suspicion can incriminate me. So we must learn how to stay together, be together, think together, and manage together than seeing each other as enemies. That's the problem.
But you see, Mr. Ngoma, you should also appreciate the UPDF for having neutralized, for lack of another word. That's what they say. And yes, at least you salute your comrades and say, yeah, asante sana.
That of UPDF, asante zaidi, but politicians, they are the ones whom I was emphasizing on. Let's behave like other politicians. To find that when it is a delegates conference of UPC, they invite in row others who are not UPC. When it is NRM, they invite. When it is budget, the address of the speaker encloses all, not one party.
If I cross to Honorable Awich, when Honorable Mao invited General Saleh to the DP Delegates Conference, I am sure you heard how loud the noise was. As in, this thing was already taken, that's why they invited. So I think for fear, because you wouldn't imagine Honorable Chagulanyi at his office now inviting like Moses Chigongo or the Secretary General of NRM, Honorable Todwong. That Honorable Todwong come and see how we do things. The day that Todwong steps there, I can assure you the foot soldiers might chase Chagulanyi and he's Todwong. Like, look, you go. Anyways,
If you don't mind, I think
yeah,
we can reach there and I'll have an opinion on that for parties going forward, particularly parties with like minds. But this is not comparison. I think what Comrade Matovu is saying is that the event referred is a national event, it's not a partisan event, and particularly because an event by the governing political organization. So I think there's a slight difference there.
Okay, the two of you allow me take my mandate.
Yeah.
And welcome Honorable Awich Pollar, who heads the external wing of NRM party. Unfortunately, he had some bit of engagement and consumed some few minutes. But nonetheless, we have him here, and it would be very, very sad if we hadn't had him, because this topic or discussion too much runs onto the NRM party and so many other parties. But as the leaders of this country, they set a yardstick for the rest of the political parties. Honorable Awich Pollar, say hello to our viewers.
Hello to the viewers as requested. I'm sorry to come late because I was at the office in a meeting. As you know, we are in the middle of serious activities, so I had a agenda item to defend. So I defended and came from plot 10, Shadow Nakasero, up to here, on border.
That's unheard of. Did you have a leading car? Leading the border?
But ideally, as a disciplined cadre, I should have come early, and I always come
defend
early.
now, to defend your position again.
But I couldn't, and therefore I have had to come on a border, and I will, I think, request the congressman to drop me back. at the party headquarters.
This is a public and take it seriously. This is a public. It's a request that is made public. So I want to accept on your behalf.
I think you guys have made that very difficult for me not to consider. But no, of course, I would drop.
You will have moved with the power.
I would drop Comrade Awich anywhere within reason.
You will have moved.
And by the for the record,
yeah, sure.
this program is a very cordial program. We support one another. Although it's a problem that ends at uncomfortable evenings, we still, wherever possible, we drop one another home and we have chats after that. So people should be able to know that the hotline is a hotline program, but no, it's
cordial.
We are quite civil.
Okay, our viewers, gladly we have Honorable Awich, and I want to give him his minutes because the other two comrades already shared their summary of the week, basically. Yeah. So, Honorable Awich, how, in 2 to 3 minutes, how has been your week?
My week has been well. As you know, we are in the middle of nomination of chairpersons at the district and the members of parliament. We're having a men's turn-up, such a turn-up that I'm sure scares our friends, because if that is a test of popularity of our party and the love for it, then you can see that the nominated leaders alone are 2 million. Those
2 million?
Yes, if you pick from the 2 million people. For members of parliament and LC5 chairman, 3,000. 3,000.
Out of the 230 or so districts, you have
no 150, 40 something districts, and a number of constituencies, but we have 3,000 people for it. So we can see how much
Does that show that you are popular, or rather you are leading opportunists who would perhaps think that upon getting the flag, even when I don't believe in NRM, chances are I will be LOC5 chairperson? Because I've seen it with other political parties, not because they subscribe to a specific party, but because they know this flag, the umbrella, the key, the bulb, to mention but a few. Now with a bus, what do you think?
For sure, is that they know they are getting a flag which if you have, you can win. That one is a settled fact. What is not a settled fact is whether they are doing it opportunistically. To settle, and anybody would want to associate himself to a winning team. But as to it is opportunistic, that is another yardstick. But we know that a winning is by majority vote. So if the majority of the people want a party where if you hold the flag you win, then where is the opportunism? Because the word opportunism or opportunistically as a derogatory sense, as a negative sense, is like not out of principle. Or it's not just a chance, opportunity, somebody would describe it as a chance. No, but here is that somebody himself, first of all, is a member of the party, because we can't give you opportunity to be nominated if you are not a member. We have what we call voter identification slip. In other words, the party radar should be able to locate you somewhere. Like the radar sees that an aeroplane is in the air. So the party radar is supposed to locate you that you are a member of the party. Now once you're a member of the party, then therefore you are going to benefit from the majority of either party members or those who are not party members, but they love the party program. Because not all those who vote for us are NRM. The other people who are not who are not registered for any party, they're not in UPC, they're not in DP, they're not in any, but they're Ugandan voters. But also we hope to convince some moderate members of other parties who see us as our agenda as credible. So whoever picks a flag and wants to stand on it, I don't think he has done it opportunistically, but I'm sure he has done it to be with the winning team.
Thank you, Honorable Awich. I want to give you 40 or so seconds, firstly, to clarify to the rest of the viewers out there and the entire public, why did you centralize these nominations? why did you, because it looks quite tricky for a young person in Kisoro who has solicited his 3 million maybe for parliamentary seat, but has to travel from Kisoro, cross to Chadondo, and also, of course, if you want to show power, you must have some bit of people coming along. We call, you know, campus days, it's the way. You have to have the way on you. Why, in your view? Because you sit in, I think, all, even in cabinet, there are days when you have sat in cabinet. So you should be having an answer. Why did you centralize the process?
It's not a cabinet member. It's a it's not a cabinet decision. It's a party decision. And I'm right at the center of it. And that is a meeting I've been on, top management of the party. The top management of the party is a body chaired by the Secretary General and composes directors like me and Electoral Commission of NRM, commissioners. So it is this body which makes guidelines and takes it to SEC for approval. Or even if you have to amend, it is, in other words, we are the technical team of the party. And then the SEC members are like board members, they approve. So that's why I'm saying it has nothing to do with cabinet. It has something to do with us. I just want to come to your answer, but I wanted to
This is what I meant, Honorable Awich, that you sit in almost every leadership circle in a party, therefore you should be having an answer, not because it was a cabinet decision.
You mentioned cabinet, that's why I wanted to erase it from the viewers. You are the one who mentioned cabinet. You are the one who mentioned cabinet, so I wanted to make it clear, the body that makes, so that if I make it clear, the body that makes, therefore an amendment I should be able to explain. And not only explain, but also be able to hone mistakes that come there too, because I just wanted to make it clear. Now, there are many reasons for centralization, but one of them is we wanted clear procedural aspect to verify in one center. Because if we decentralize, you run a risk of the procedure carried out in Ombara is different from the procedure in Gulu or Mbale. So we did this so that it is varied at some level decentralized, but the exit is one. Why we do this is because we have had multiple litigation on wrongful procedures, either nominating wrong candidates, people who are not party members, people without educational qualification, those who, you know, many so we wanted to be, if possible, hair-tight, but if not hair-tight, at least watertight. So we thought that centralizing it gives us the opportunity to be hair-tight and watertight, so that we minimize on varieties of procedures, that one region will deviate and set another procedure, another part will set another procedure, mistakes coming there to become a litigation, and the party is sued as a party, and we have lost a lot of money in some of those mistakes. Because once you sue the party and courts award cost, we pay money. So we wanted to be airtight.
Isn't that a symbol of ill effectiveness on your side when it comes to a party that has been here since 2005, when political parties were introduced in Uganda, and you can hardly trust regional blocks to literally manage what people might call micro, you know, like we're doing now, macro managing the party. Don't you think that could be seen as a weakness to your end as a party that
It's not a weakness. You know, it is very easy to make a mistake on procedural aspects. For one reason, that information flow tend to be edited along the way.
Between Kampala and Kisoro?
Yes, yes, it tends to be. We did a work, let me tell you this. We did, in a workshop in Lera, we put 7 people in a line. You can even do with us.
They're fearing ghost candidates.
So we did 7 people. This is to show you flow of information. What we wrote on the paper was, cholera has broken in Utuke. Government should run with medicine. I repeat, cholera has broken in Utuke and government should run with medicine. So we give the first person to read and remove it, and then tell him, you whisper to that one. This one whisper to that, the other. Just 7 people in this room.
And we asked the last person, tell us what you have been told. The original text was cholera has broken in Utuke, government should rush with the medicine. Do you know the last text? Museveni things are bad, it needs a helicopter. The original text had nothing to do with things are bad. It had nothing to do with helicopter. Museveni was not in the original text. So, colleagues, it is easy. Either human minds forget what it was told, and in the process of forgetting, somebody tries to fill in the gap, or somebody simply feels the original text was not sweet enough, and in his mind he should add. So in the process, as you reach the end, things are edited. It is a human nature. So human nature. Imagine 7 people in a room. Nobody has even gone to the toilet. By the time you ask the last person, it's telling you something else. So how then do you trust that you have had a workshop at the party headquarters, you have had a seminar, you have educated all those who are going to conduct? From the seminar, everybody will work differently. And yet you have conducted a seminar, a workshop. So it is in human nature that there's a distortion editing of information for one reason or another. So when you centralize, and I'm telling you, if you have brothers in Kampala, don't visit a brother in Bugolobi and tell the maid or the child that mom is sick, is in Mulago. Will come and tell your brother mom is dead. So, for this reason, it is better to concentrate them in one area, pass the same information, implement the same information.
Does that mean that the advantages that carries outweigh the disadvantages, a reason for which he opted to doing that, and of course deal with the consequences thereafter? And then if it's a yes, I don't want to ask like a leading question, but if it's a yes, then we should proceed to Mr. Ochieno.
Of course, if you consider any phenomenon of pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages, well, many other things will have both pros and cons, but you want to choose which one has better advantage. So we thought this was better than decentralizing.
Thank you, Honorable.
But I found them saying something. It was to the effect that how far would a party invite other political parties? Because that will get lost. I just wanted to make my comment on that. I always, nearly any other 3 months, attend national conferences of other parties. I've just been to CCM. I've attended that of RPF in Rwanda. The civilized procedure.
We mean here.
No, I'm telling you that is a background. The civilized procedure, and we have done it in Ambole before. The civilized behavior and good is that first you invite your national other parties. Even CCM with the Tanzanian, where they had arrested the leader of opposition, they invited. You said, colleagues, come and see what we do.
Did you invite Noop?
So I'm saying we shall. It is not yet. We are going to. We are now organizing the national conference. On top of inviting other political parties, you even invite other foreign political parties, CCM, ANC, what, all this. So it is in a civilized political atmosphere. Me, I would be very happy if Noop invited NRM and I went and represented the Secretary General, if he can't make it. But under civilized civil polity, political parties invite their friends. I'm sure UPC could be doing, you used to do it. We did. With the Semugerere.
And we'll continue to do so.
You did it. So it's a civilized way of doing it.
I will cross to...
And I will invite them. You wait and see.
I will cross to Honorable Ochieno, Joseph, but definitely to ask if whether you would attend if they invited you. But that should come with, of course, with precisely a summary of your week, and then ask you indeed on whether there is a lot, whether there is anything to learn from them that would compel you to perhaps go there, or otherwise proceed.
There's very little to learn from NRA, certainly not from UPC perspective. But if there's a courtesy and there's a normalized environment of polity, and we've dealt with the brutality that we see in Kawempe and others, and we recognize that NRA has graduated into a normalized, responsible political organization in Uganda with national interests rather than selfish and grouping chauvinist interests. We would consider that when time comes. But that said, Comrade Rich is also right.
It confuses them now. Who do they invite?
Sorry?
Joseph, do they invite you? Do they invite Akena? Do they invite Warubiri?
Oh.
Maybe it is.
The host has to decide. We can invite
All the three.
So he would not know who the host wants to invite.
How would you be introduced now? The street president, the mobile president.
You seem to be enjoying this. In the
Not
answer
really,
to Comrade
because you're
Awich.
three.
What NRA has done to UPC, you are really enjoying. No, obviously that is actually a matter of thinking. Actually, that's a matter of Comrade Awich is, he's got a very soft spot for Julius Nyerere, and
Yeah,
and
sure.
of course,
Yeah,
we were at Nyerere's home a few months ago, and it was a fantastic event, fantastic experience. As Pan-Africanist, both as Uganda People's Congress, in my own individual capacity, I was putting this out of solidarity. And indeed, you can't put on this and be very distant from CCM. So you could see Comrade Awich was very much tickled. But so we have a number of things in common. But look, I just returned very late last night because I needed to be here to do on this program that we've committed ourselves to every week. But I was in West Nile to meet at the invitation of the regional party in West Nile, and it was a very fantastic meeting. I was saddened that the journey between Nebi and Arua is almost as if the people of Arua have committed some kind of treason against this establishment. The road is so bad.
Between
Nebi
and
and
Arua.
Arua, yes. The road is so bad that you wonder, what wrong have these people done? They almost as if they are people from Nigeria who maybe they didn't make a mistake for not voting NRA enough. I don't know. As far as the badness of
Maybe
the
he
road.
uses a chopper when he's going to there, but he will tell us.
No, of course, Museveni uses a chopper.
But
By the way, I told a certain group of people at some place in Arua that if Museveni was to travel by road once every 2 months, once every month to Arua by road, that road would already have been done. So that is how too much of two worlds we have. So West Nile, gross poverty, gross despair, you go through and then you see we have two countries. Because West Nile is not Shema, whatever's happening down there. And this is something that
He hails from the West, we tell you his picture.
I also know, I know, I'm not, generally by that I know. But I can tell you the squalor in that side of the world, particularly in Zombo, as a sub-district, it's terrible. And it's a shame that one political organization has ruled this country for 40 years, and people of a particular section of our country.
Why would such people, as you portray them in such dire poverty, end up voting the NRM cadres?
Partly it's the Stockholm syndrome, but partly it's because they were beaten, impoverished, humiliated, threatened, and now, like I met somebody in Pakwach the other night, the night before yesterday, where somebody openly told me that people decided not to cause trouble by keeping quiet, meaning we don't want to be seen to be anti-establishment, because they've been beaten so much that the best thing is to acquiesce and say yes sir, because we want to survive tomorrow. It's an extraordinary argument to come from people, but that's part of the reality that is taking place. And that's basically the reason. Because to tell you what, predominantly West Nile, there is no reason, there's no justifiable reason for anybody there
to vote
for NRA. But it is individual choices, individual freedom. But in any case, for us as UPC, what we're trying to do is to try and have a much more national conversation, because part of the other alternative also, which may be our problem as the alternative political parties, that UPC maybe also struggle too much with our own internal issues, and we've not gone out enough to engage
civic
the people.
education.
And that may also be the case for other political parties like the old ones like FDC and DP. In NUPC's case, they can actually argue that when they were last down there, the incident about Chagulanyi and others in that hotel where an artificial gun is alleged to have appeared and disappeared, the gun which was as mysterious as the Wimabati found itself in Matia Kasaija's back room. So something like that. Coming back, I found that even the road to Chankwanzi, my car nearly broke on a pothole. And I just drive a modest wish. How these guys go to, just this Hoima road here. These are minor, basic things, but the representation of our country.
You mean the
Chankwanzi? We will
Chankwanzi?
always talk about
That road to Chankwanzi, where they always take people to do governance and...
It's terrible. But it's slightly improved now, and they're doing some work on it, to be fair, by the way. Even the West Nile Road from Pakwach to Nebi, they're working, part of it, they're working on it. And I told the minister, the arrogant minister from that end the other time at a function in West Nile where he was trying to argue that all the things being done now, and I say 40 years after that is not particularly good time. But anyway, that was part of my experience. And finally, I saw something that calmed me down a bit with the possibility that in this country more Ugandans are waking up to the reality of the fact that it is possible for us to live together. But saddened by the events in the Middle East, where Americans are beginning to drag the rest of the world, America and Israel, taunting and torturing Syria, rather Iran, in another war where actually some Ugandans have already been involved. It's events of the week, but it saddens me knowing what has happened in Iraq, what's happened in Kuwait, what's happened in Syria, what's happened in Afghanistan, what's happened in Libya, all caused by America, what happens in Grenada, and what happened in Vietnam. I think Africans, if you see what's happening, the arrogance, the power America and Israel is using, it's the more reason why we should have this conversation and begin to look slightly much more inward as Africans across our political divide to have some much more common interest as a peoples and as an identity. Because the world, where the world is going, I think our children, if we don't care, they might end up being great-grandchildren slaves of a few privileged, powerful lords, people who can actually put aircrafts on air, while for us we cannot maintain even the Pakwach Bridge that UPC built 50 years ago.
Thank you. In this remaining few minutes to our break, I want to ask Mr. Vianney Ngoma to share with us. First of all, you see, all of you have mentioned, I have realized that you don't like young people because none of you has mentioned the elections of but that will come in our second hour. Maybe.
My agenda number 3 in the
yeah, sure. Mr. Vianney Ngoma, did you follow the sequence of events with the elections? Because also, I think I will ask our producer to highlight for us the letter you wrote to Electoral Commission with your highlights. But maybe you will kindly share with the public because they may not be in position to read the letter, much as I've asked our producer to have our letter on the screen. What did you intend to achieve through your letter?
About what you have mentioned, following the sequence of events. Now, the syndrome is one, centralism. Centralism means knocking other players and stakeholders out. You taking the central mandate. That's what is killing every system here.
That's the letter of the screen.
That one entails the obstacle. You are an obstacle.
Who is an obstacle in this?
The central bodies and apex bodies. Because take an example on that letter for us reacting to the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission sits there with the police, with the army and others, without the Awich Pollars, without us UPM, without NRM. They come to place that we have kicked them out. Then tomorrow they are in practice and on rampage. Now for us we are suggesting that no. Let the Electoral Commission invoke its mandate, meet everybody. Let it be media, let it be every organized body, let it be the public, let it be the stakeholders, so that they can combine their views and guidelines to them. Instead of them coming with overhauling guidelines to us. Now, it is like now a bicycle of these people are saying that vugu vugu waswairao. They are the ones leading us with their ideas, not even consulting us to guide them and brief them on what is good to us. But for them, they think that whichever applicable measures they bring to us are applicable to us or either suitable.
We have 2 minutes to go to a short commercial break. I want to ask you, do you think that the Electoral Commission's failure to convene stakeholders like you and others is what could have caused the prawns that the cons rather, that we saw in the entire process?
Yes. When you hide what you have agreed with your partner or whom you have sat with, that is you, between you and him. With me, I will be victimized and I cannot challenge because I don't know terms there. I only bias or I am only directed to adhere. That's how they are reading us. This should be led by what they call voter education. When you go to voters thinking that you know better to educate them, they can as well educate you there when you are in the field. Because you go very sure that I am higher than them, I will educate, but they can educate you there. That's why we want them in the field, everything to be field-led, to come from the voters. Electoral Commission without voters, they cannot be there.
But
if we can withdraw our registration, they can seize, because their background, their employers are voters.
But Mr. Vianney, with the entire arrangement of Electoral Commission, isn't there something that you could credit them, in particular in terms of organizing the special interest groups elections? That is, of course, the elderly and the young people, the youth elections.
Special interest is an abuse. They are not special interest.
What are they?
They are entitled by law. When you call them special interest, you are self-styling yourself that you are the ones giving them an opportunity to exercise. And even demagoguery, self-styling yourself that without you giving them a chance, they cannot practice.
I'm cutting it short for half a minute. We go into a commercial break. But of course, when we come back, I will also use my mandate to have Honorable Awich, and then
we will monopolize.
I will take my powers. Viewers, we are here at TikTok House, of course, streaming live.
Interest. They all arouse them.
Let us come back shortly with the panel as present as they are here. Norman taking charge now.
Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
The Ugandan National Museum, a place where unforgettable memories are created. Traditions are found and a connection to our Paul is reinforced. It is not only a testimony to the history of our nation, but also impacts knowledge of cultural and natural heritage to the present and future generations for their enjoyment. Through a variety of activities and exhibitions, we gather to discover our traditions and create new ones. The Uganda Museum is our country's cultural icon that makes it accessible for the next generations to come together as our story unfolds and represents the interplay of our country's past and present. It is in our history, but also in how it has evolved to embrace optical satisfaction and new influences. Our identity as a country is not only a moment in time, but also a journey of where we have been, where we are, and where we are going. we invite you to experience the authentic heritage, rich history of Uganda. Welcome to the Uganda National Museum.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Our viewers, I can't thank you enough. My name is Tumuhimbise, trying to cruise this boat of Hotline Show with the senior citizens. One of them lost power, two of them pushed him away out of power. So then one of the two, after also sometimes he realized he had done a mistake also to push the other one out of power. Then he had been duped. Literally, we have one who is consistent with the reasons for which he went to the power, to the bush, and he's still convinced things are moving very, very, very well. Of course, I mean Honorable Awich, of course, not you.
Consistent?
Yeah, consistent. No, consistent.
Or a constant, that's fine.
No,
because I'm consistent.
No, he's consistent with the ideology that took him to the bush, and after their return, and of course managing this country. So this, I mean, we should give him his flowers. So we have here
The
Honorable.
contradiction is that is serving from a Bruce perspective, but I think what viewers don't know
I want to
is
use
that it's actually very consistent that Awich is a believer in the movement system of the old time. To be fair, actually, that's consistent.
You want to take my mandate. Anyhow, I wanted to also say today, the 23rd June, is the day that now the late John Garang was born in 1945. He's that great Pan-African. He was born today, 1945. Had he not passed on, he would make 80 years today. But of course, we wish the entire family, the neighbors, of course, in South Sudan, to celebrate his birthday, of course, with the achievements he made back in the day. Honorable Awich, I want to ask you precisely, then we shall dive into our topic of discussion on what you make of course, their submissions, but most importantly, with how the Electoral Commission managed the elections of young people, but also special interest groups, where he says now they are no longer special interest, now it's entitlement. Just like in a minute, and then we shall dive into the topic of discussion.
Oh, I really don't have much to comment about how the Electoral Commission managed, except for the fact that no news is good news. Because bad news travel faster than good news. Definitely, if there were wrong things which had happened, it would be all over.
Yeah.
But you nearly can tell that there was even an election. That means everything was good, or many things were good. Because bad news travel faster. But the only thing I know is that it should be, it was an opening eye for us as NRM, that the people still love us. We have about 96% win in the youth, and 100% win in the elderly. And which other one?
People with disabilities.
The disability. Now, even the percentage of youth that brought us back, for some reason, in Lango, it is where we got 76%. Buganda, Ankole, everywhere we are like 99%, including the village of Bobby Wine, Magere. Including Magere, we won all the youth positions, including Magere here on Gayaza Road. So, for those who think that we don't have the support of the people, they should think twice. And that, therefore, should make my colleague want to know more why he thinks that the people of West Nile have bad roads, they are poor, and why they should support. It's a multiplicity of reasons. First of all, the peace maintained. For example, West Nile
under UPC, about 90% of people were in exile.
That's not true.
About 90%.
No.
You can go to a census and count.
No.
The population in West Nile all ran to Congo or ran to Sudan. There was massive reported violations of human rights. Now, such a group, if you bring that person home to his land where he can cultivate his sorghum and maize,
The rest is...
that's enough for him.
Where will he, how would he transport the...
that is another debate, but he will support. So, there, as I said, there are multiplicity, but I've just given one reason. Therefore, the election of what you call the special interest groups, the coinage, I think, is a coinage of the Constituent Assembly. Looks like the coinage, the term is used repeatedly in the Constitution, but more clear in the subsequent Act of Parliament. I think the thing here to raise my comrades' fears is special interest group. Whose interest? Is it the interest of the authorities or the interest of the interest holders? I think in this case, they are the rights holder. For example, a disability, who owns a right of a disabled person is the right holder. So the interest being referred to as special interest of his interest, the rights holder, not the interest group of the authority or government. So that's why they are found to say they are rights holder because, say, for example, they are disabled, they can't move, they can't run, they can't do this, so take them separately. So therefore, they are rights holders, and you can substitute the word rights with interest. So they are the rights holder. So the special interest group in the legislative mind or in the coinage of the Constitution is their interest, not the interest of government. So we want all. The other thing is that my colleague mentioned about Iran war. It is so unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. There are two things here in this Iran thing. And I don't know why the Americans can't say it. One, there is no, the bomb, they call it what? Nuclear. There is no nuclear weapon in Iran. Iran is a member of the non-nuclear proliferation. Iran has opened itself always to investigations, to checking everything. There's none. Two, the Americans even let the Israelites bomb the Iran, and they even have the audacity to say, okay, you have been bombed, but please don't reply. You have slapped me, and you even want me not to reply a slap? The first thing is it true that there is nuclear weapon? Zero. And this is the same thing used in Iraq. This is the same thing used in Libya. This is the same thing used everywhere. It comes out even from their former presidents or others to say it was a lie. And the lies continue to be told and told and told again.
Okay, that's now, maybe we shall have a specific time for international politics now. The reason for which we considered having you today, the three of you, is to dive and assess the sequence of events in as far as political parties are concerned, their internal democracies, but now most importantly, how can those very political parties minimize this syndrome of independent but party-leaning independence, for lack of another word. I'll give you a precedent. Back in the day, in 2005, 2526 elections, Honorable Kezimbira Miyingo was then the State Minister for Internal Affairs, hailing from Rengo, and he was contesting in Bokoto Midwest. Back in the day, Honorable Ruhakana Rugunda was in charge. I think back in the day he was holding the office of Tanga Odoi now. Elections were mad with irregularities. I picked that gentleman because one of the reasons, in fact the leading reason for which he passed on is because he lost an election. When he lost, Sejoba Isaac, when he lost primaries, NRM primaries, Sejoba Isaac contested as independent. Sadly, the NRM party could not bar Isaac from contesting as independent. He contested and won the Honorable Minister. He passed on. Recently, you have a president, a living president of Katakwi, if I'm not mistaken. You have seen Honorable Jessica Alupo coming as independent and winning the NRM flag bearer. Sadly, to other political observers, she is awarded with a vice presidency. What does that teach to other people? That even when you contest as an independent, the powers that be will reward you regardless of having misbehaved in the party primaries. Honorable Awich, how can political parties deal with that question?
Okay, thank you so much. I've been thinking about this, and I think this is the right forum for me to share my views with the viewers. Both my views, but also the practicalities that will happen. First of all, the point of departure here is that everybody has a right to contest. It's a constitutional provision subject to the conditions laid down, like educational qualification, citizenship, and all the like that is listed. You are free to contest. Two is that because of that, even as in NRM, we said you are free to contest the position of your choice, also subject to the conditions. Because for us, we say for you to contest, you must meet the national election
guidelines or prerequisites.
Provisions. So you have it. Now, fast forward, this thing of independence will die. Lose no sleep. It will die in this way. Some time ago, government introduced a provision in the budget where Parliament appropriates budget for political parties. You get it in the proportional representation. That materiality determines the superstructural, the ideological, the thinking. What will happen is this, and I've talked this with many colleagues. For example now, where in Lira City West, UPC would have a primary election and another UPC would win, but another one will go as independent. In the past,
UPC leaning.
In the past, a kind of voter wouldn't care to go there. After all, whoever wins is UPC. But now, no more. I give you another example. There are two distinct constituencies in Buganda where there could be more, but two that I know, which was ring-fenced by NUP not to interfere. The constituency of Kira municipality.
Semuju.
And then Sibambi along the road there.
Maukota, is it Maukota and
yes.
North, or?
Now what would happen is the NUP considered these people very viable opposition members. And therefore, they told them we are not entering. Now, no more.
Yeah.
Why? Because now with the introduction of the money, NUP will tell Semuju Uganda that we know you oppose Museveni. We know you abuse Museveni. But please, we want that share. When it comes to abusing, we shall meet on the TV and in workshops and seminars. Because each of that share is tagged
Attracts,
what? Money.
Some money.
The same thing with UPC. Akenobota will not want an independent UPC. He will want a real UPC because it attracts money. I met members of parliament from Lango, NRM, and I warned them. I told my colleague, my friend Okot, I said, Okot, if in the unfortunate event that you lose a mother, Akena will give you 10 million for condolence, what in Luganda you call Mabugu. I told Okot that should your son be wedding, Akena will give you 5 million as contribution to your son. But that share, first leave it.
In other words, let the money pass through him, and then he gives you. Therefore, what I'm saying is the materiality introduced now will definitely fight out this concept of independence. Because there is no way in Lira City West an independent UPC will win if Akena Bote went to campaign for UPC and NRM went to campaign for its flag bearer. So this material concept will reduce independence automatically. Anyhow, as that works automatically in itself, because of the introduction of this money in parliament by parties, first of all, even no party like NRM now, for example, can reluctantly go to a constituency and say, okay, this one is NRM leaning, so let him be independent. No, because there's money attached.
But the president has been seen.
That was in the past, not now. So now, I just want to lay the firm ground that the superstructural thinking of a society, the ideological, the spiritual thinking is rooted on a materiality. Now the materiality is money is there. It will change the thinking.
No,
Two, I want to say that notwithstanding that, for us as a party, we have said, since you have the right that I started with in the constitution and all of that, for us as a party, we have said, you need to adhere to an agreement that we shall subject you and said,
when you lose, you don't come.
When you lose, you don't. Because in law, you are bound by your agreement. Unless the agreement seems to be utterly illegal.
But that becomes repugnant with the mother law, because
Yes.
the mother law gives
Unless,
the person a right.
if, for example, you have an agreement to sell your daughter to slavery, that becomes an illegal agreement. But an agreement in what you want to do, this is not considered an illegality. Of course, all agreements must be legally binding. Therefore, one, I am repeatedly saying the introduction of the materiality in seats will drastically fight independence. Two, some parties will go an extra steps to take precautions institutionally to stop it. And then three, of course, will be by campaign. So, now for the materiality, for me now as a director, because I know money is attached, originally I would want somebody elected on NRM for two reasons. One is going to propagate the ideology in parliament. Two is going to vote for NRM positions in legislation and in policy making. But now the third is I get money also. So meaning that if I went to Kisoro and found anybody with a flag, I will die with that one. If I went to Nakapipirit and I found somebody with a flag, I will die with that one. And it's the same thing for UPC and DP and what? So the material introduction of this money has saved us in a total reduction of independent phenomenon nationally.
I will request to Mr. Ochieno, but of course I don't want to sound so hypothetical and or otherwise, but the money thing has been there.
Ooh, how? Since when? No. This money was introduced after this election.
But even iPod had been there. Every single MP that hailed from any political party would attract money. Maybe there could be
Can we agree that this money that we are saying is released quarterly? Can we agree that this money started benefiting, parties started benefiting after the 2021 election?
The iPod, you mean the money through iPod?
The money now, budget? The money is like this. Parliament passes budget. The money, like the money is released to agriculture, to gender, to what, every quarterly. This money is released to Electoral Commission quarterly. I put it to you that it started coming after the 2021 election. It was not before.
Mr. Ochieno, how organized is UPC, regardless of which UPC now, how organized is UPC internally to fight that syndrome of UPC, but I mean independent but UPC leaning? Do you think it is achievable?
I want to suggest that you stick to the idea that there is one Uganda People's Congress,
Okay.
with respect to me, but also with respect to my party, and with respect to this country, that UPC
Is one.
led to its making today. And with respect to Museveni, who without UPC would have
Wouldn't
been a
be who
nobody.
is.
The problem in UPC is that there are two individuals who are claiming to leadership of the party who don't have authority. But there is one Uganda People's Congress. And it's a very important point because it helps with this conversation here. Part of this confusion is one of the reasons why we now find people out there materially jumping from place to place, looking for political survival. But number two, Awich is laboring on the argument that the politics of money, as legislated recently, has meant that political parties are taking this business of candidature, carrying what they call the flags, basically party tickets. These word flags have also come in, and which you and I will have conversation about these things culturally, because some of these are terminologies which are neither here nor there. But no, the problem that we are suffering from is the monetization of politics that NRA created from the time it came in 1986 by some of their members beginning to grab national wealth and make money, and by the time, even as well as their monolithic personal merit polity, beginning to use me, myself, and I, the individual, particularly when political parties have been killed. Which one of the prices Ugandans are paying, the death of ideological leanings of political parties, one from the banning of political parties, and two, that by the time political parties were returned in active, were allowed to participate, many of them would have been so weakened that parties emerge around individuals and personalities, people who have money, who do not have money, rather than what they really represent. And number three, because of the example starting from State House, where people don't respect the Constitution, kill term limits, kill age limits, create legislation to try civilians in military courts when it serves you, create opportunities to make money that you're able to give to Pinetis, boast, as Mr. Museveni the other day boasts about this, that MPs should not compete with him because for him he gets the 3% and is able to go ahead and do the black envelope, brown envelope thing. I say, I give this money here, it's given to me free by the Constitution. You can't compete with me. I've got money to give. You guys don't have that money to give, kind of stuff. While that is happening, political parties and as organizations have become very weakened. I noticed from Comrade Awich, and I want to give him credit, I think Awich and a few people at the NRA Secretariat have bin recent past trying to mainstream the organization to come from this terror machine from the bush to a mainstream political party and organization with rules. I sense that, Comrade Awich, I'm giving this to you as credit, because I actually see it. They're trying to do that, and it's important. Uganda today is a Uganda where people are seeking to survive. Many of the people flocking into NRA are flocking there because that is where money and power is. But then when you come into the issue of independence, as you'd argue, if you have somebody in State House who does not respect the Constitution, does not even respect his office as the fountain of honor, then you go to political parties and you find leaders who don't even respect the office. Like I said, in Uganda's case, Uganda House is occupied by an illegality, but it's business as usual, Then you narrow down and then go to what would others be the rule book, the constitution of the party, and the powers of the membership, which is basically the delegates conference. Once the delegates conference of the party says, this is our elected leader, you expect all members to respect. Once they say, this is the rule of the game, you expect all members to obey. But right now, with the internal weaknesses of all political parties and organizations, some of which, Comrade Awich, suggest that they can't even trust their district parties, to carry out these things effectively. It is telling you the level of weakness. So there is no election that takes place without contests. So therefore, it's not surprising that we now have people, away from people who have got grievances, genuine grievances, because they've been voted out, or perhaps rigged out, Politics, the culture now of me, myself, and I, is such that people go in, lose genuinely in primaries, terrible losers, but they think there's an opportunity, the other guy just beat me by about, 1,000. I think if now I reorganize independently, I'll go and win. I have argued even...
And that strategy has worked because there are some people...
That's true,
Take, for instance, I want to use, apply the example of Honorable Jessica Alupo.
Yeah.
She lost terribly at the, in primaries. She reorganized it perhaps and came back. Now she's a big lady.
That is true. But your program today is an important program because it's helping us address that.
Of course.
Yes. The day before yesterday, I was meeting party members and other activists in Pakwach, some of whom were not necessarily party members. And this is one of the things we're actually clearly discussing. That for me, and then yesterday morning, I was somewhere in Bunyoro on my way back, and I met a number of political activists who would come from a radio show. In fact, some of them could reach, one of them was from NRA. But there was somebody who was standing as an independent councillor. And I was trying to tell them that, look, you guys, you need to decide whether or not of this political party, where are you ideologically? Where are you politically? You need to pick. If it is NRA, pick NRA and go and fight inside NRA, rather than to say independent. But it's worse at the level, particularly at parliamentary level. You go in as an independent. Independent what? What do you represent? What is independence?
Independent mind. No,
so we need to be able to do this. But if you don't mind, no, the primary cause of this is partly money. The primary cause of this is internal indiscipline, and the primary cause is a national culture where we don't like to play by the rules. Let me just conclude this because I know in your bit of time.
Yeah.
In the traditional Uganda People's Congress before Milton Obote died, in my language they say, these animals that play around only when chickens have gone to sleep, cockroaches, yes. So up to the time when Milton Obote died, nobody would disrespect the party organization anyhow. Number two, I was in the British Labour Party as a senior official, and I've told this again and again and again. In the Labour Party, whether it's a branch party, constituency party, or anything beyond, but really the branch or constituency or local government executive of the party, you must play by the rules. So if you've lost, you've lost. Now, me, who has conducted many meetings at branch and constituency and local government executive, you can't afford to do the thing wrongly. So there's a culture that I'm asking young Ugandans. It will be able to address part of this because you guys, unless we organize ourselves, America and Russia and China will come and abuse you guys in the streets of Kampala like nothing. So wake up Ugandans and wake up Africans. And it starts with organizations politically. So this independence politics, I agree with you, we are discussing it. It must be discouraged.
Okay.
But for the moment, political parties and organizations are too weak. As I said, most of the political parties are controlled by people whose own manner in which they've come to take those positions are suspect. What do you expect from an average member who basically wants to go ahead and gain access to the money that which is stole into the electoral process via
Let's cross to...
I just wanted a question.
Sorry.
You want to take my mandate?
No, just asking
I'm
a
borrowing you
question.
my mandate.
I just wanted you to comment my what you call hypothesis. Do you see any effect on the introduction of the money pack?
Oh, it's very important.
Is there effect or no effect?
No, Comrade, yeah, by the Comrade, which is very right. And I don't want to bring out names. There are certain people, including around the circles of Uganda People's Congress, who are so mad by that money that they're going for that money. I have also known that it has been reported, and I think let me say it here actually, it has been reported that right now that money goes illegally to Uganda House. And until recently, when Jimmy and his team woke up for different reasons, only when that money came, this is breaking news, did some people appear in Uganda House.
Okay, let me cross
They
to...
were not going.
So they were not going. And so finally, if you don't mind, if you don't mind.
Yeah, a few seconds, yeah.
For different reasons, you can get into my time coming later. For different reasons, my own view, Norman, is that a UPC government under my leadership would review and remove that money into politics. It has just been reintroduced. Why? Because I don't believe that the taxpayers should channel money, which and I have some ideas about these things background, should channel money, into political parties, individuals that goes to elites and causing this.
Okay.
Political parties, worth of names, should find ways of raising them, and you're a socialist. I hope you can be able to agree.
Okay,
with
let's
we
cross
should
to...
be able to find money for ourselves, and if we can't afford to run political parties, we should pack our bags, go ahead and look after cows, rather than depending on public coffers for the public who can't afford basic malaria treatments like those ones in Zombo.
Let me cross to Mr. Vianney Ngoma Matovu. You see, that gentleman is, if it was Joyce would say, he's a cocktail. Because he will bring UPM, he will bring FRONASA theory. So
let me try to look at him.
let him tell us which theory now. Which theory would he apply to better the politics of this country in as far as dealing with that syndrome of a party-leaning independent?
In practice now, we don't have roles for members if it is an organization or a political party. We have laws for the highest apex body to favor themselves. In 1997, Justice Kanyihamba and the team, they pushed for inculcating the culture of constitutionalism. But legislation, when it intervened, eroded the other one, the culture of constitutionalism. Who is leaning and independent? They are not new practitioners. They are older who have transformed politics to be bankable, viable projects. The legislators by then in a legislative house viewed themselves, those who had offended the electorate pleaded with those who had the electorate that let us strategically make ourselves safe with the term they called the back four. So, leaning independent, those are back four. After failing there, you fall where? Those are the ones who created it. In bankable syndrome, which has there is no the necessary conformity. They cannot conform with losing. They have to put another leg, a third one, a fourth one, to make them come back, to stage a radicalism of comeback. That is to stage a comeback. Whether they will stomach you or not, it is not leaning. But the schooled, these two schooled gentlemen, they have,
it's our fault, yes.
They have how they use catch words, which are so cosmetic to the society.
NRM leaning.
In
UPC leaning.
it is not leaning. Is how, if you expose it, is how you can stage a radical comeback. It is not leaning with who.
Why radical? Why not just?
You have lost. You are an aggrieved party.
Maybe,
maybe,
Mr. Ngoma, it is for the independents that, of course, apparently by Mr. Ochieno's words, he doesn't want them in politics, to be honest. You decide where. But that aside, it is perhaps for them to show discontent that, hey, Honorable Awich, with your chairperson, Tang Odoi, I am not contented with the process. To show to you that you were wrong, I am coming as an independent and I will win. And by God's grace, I have won. And also to prove matters worse, the president also awards me with a ministry. So you become vice president. And in any case, you come back and you find an independent presiding over an NRM caucus. So where is the moral authority? But proceed, we shall push it to him.
words only exposed the ingredient inside.
Yeah.
In philosophy, there is what they call content and form. The form is leaning.
Content
The form is lost. The content is that me, who have lost, who had your flag, you were not trust with me. That's why you side with. I can as well, having lost, be the other whom you appoint so. But leaving me there, you have been not, that is an expression of anger to the electorate. You were not in favor of me. It shows a side and explodes the internal thinking and syndrome within the center, which spoils politics. In politics, when you want to run it clean, you stomach. Whether you have lived with me, I have.
for purposes of building the
They
party.
have read the flag, you bear with me. When you don't bear, you keep splitting the electorate and making others thinking you are not in favor of them, quitting the party. That's what is causing defection, what you are calling defection, if they can be allowed to express why they defect. But they don't always expose these things.
Is it curable? And then I shall cross to Honorable Awich.
Is it settled? Can it be settled?
If yes, how?
Yes. This is how it can be settled.
These two,
Let the management of the parties be for the members, not be for those who think that they are more thinkers than the others. There is the problem which has been left here by the white man's folly of thinking even those who are schooled, they are not schooled themselves because they still have a thinking that that one who went by MDD is dumb. The one who went by science
or council
is superior. Those who went by council, which they are the run.
law school land.
And they're boasting.
Others, the fake. So have you seen the confusion within?
Elitism,
That is
is
the
it true?
confusion.
Yeah.
That is the confusion is being practiced in the practice. We need to first settle this one from the step one, from schools, and know that if it is by constitutional law, senior 6 or A level, it is enough. Not even in parliament you see them. That one with other disciplines is considered nonsense. The other one with other disciplines more wise and is supposed to be at the floor of parliament wiser.
Okay.
The other one is looking ignorant at the one. Even
Maybe
the word qualification splits people
okay.
because they hate even, it creates a hate. The group of Comrade which they ran,
Land friends.
they hate those who stopped at A level, not running. So when we are internally having that civil strife, fragmentations, not having common thinking and common move, we stay wretched.
Okay. Honorable Awich, you have heard the submissions from, but it's like did you have something to, just like precisely,
Just
precisely?
very quick,
and
very
then,
quick on this independence thing. I did not say that I don't want them. I was just trying to emphasize the fact that actually the circumstances in which we're having independence in Uganda are very erroneous. It thinks actually disadvantages to the political parties, it's disadvantages to the political processes, I don't think it helps in building democracy, considering the fact that we're struggling. And then finally, I do not think it's a fair thing for the citizens. In developed democracies, you hardly get independence. Why? Partly because, and the failure is political institutions, is because political organizations have internal mechanisms good enough to make sure that
The process
the
through which
grievance
they
is not
pick.
there. However, individuals who emerge from nowhere to go independent. Some of these are opportunistic people, to use the word that you actually use. And I think these people need to be challenged slightly more for the purposes of us building politics. Because why quickly? As political parties were being founded more recently, parties were splitting. The point again you made that I want to really emphasize your point. I told, I think, including this program, that I believe we should have more political parties but more leaders. And meaning therefore that some of these splits is telling you that people fall out, go ahead and form political parties, rather than sticking to strengthen the institution, to strengthen the organization.
In just 40 seconds, would you rather support someone who does not identify themselves with any political party from day one and says, I so and so, without fear or favor, I am not part of any political party, I will come as independent, as compared to he or she who participates in the process and is like, wait a second, I think it was wrong, let me go back.
That is absolutely true. But yet, in any case, as someone who's been an activist on this thing for a long time, I also don't believe that most average persons can claim in this space in Ugandan politics, where politics played from the left to the right, social democracy and otherwise, and conservative, that we will find a considered, for argument, a learned citizen of Uganda who does not have an association with an existing political party. However, there are exceptions where independents emerge. Somebody might emerge from Mukono, somebody might emerge from Luengo, and they say, I am so convictionist driven by the project Balalo, I believe so much in Kato, that none of these parties can take my position. I am such an environmentalist, I'm so disappointed. UPS is not agitating for this. Me, I want to campaign around Mabira Forest, and I'm going to go to Parliament because I want to protect the environment, I want to protect Mabira, and I run with it as a single issue campaigner. And that can build and gain traction. Such people go to Parliament, and that is not something I would necessarily disassociate with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Honorable Awich, you seem to be, I don't want to use the word at crossroads, but of course you can't avoid it because it's like the other two gentlemen and just so many others think that NRM is literally not playing its role as the party in power to be exemplary. I will definitely ask you to allow me say that when General Otafire found issues with the Kahonda, he came as independent Kahonda. Do you know Kahonda? Kahonda is using like a hammer. So people would think that Kahonda has, has Kahonda who has hammered Otafire. Otafire had issues, but that alone he literally, I think, of course, talked to the powers that be. They chopped off his constituency. Now, I'm exemplary enough in regards to ensuring that independence dealt with. But again, another question for you, Honorable Awich. Do you think that citizens learned multi-party politics for them to subscribe to a party? And I am for NRM with the ideologies, because if they did, why would they again come as independents?
Wow, so many questions there. I hope I will answer them along the way. First of all, let me deal with the question of Otafire. If you interrogate Otafire's situation, it exposes a lot, or it exposes something about this issue of independent vis-a-vis political party. You already mentioned in Katakwi that a loser went independent, a loser in primary, went independent in final and became a vice president, and quite often chairs
the NRM caucus. How does it make you feel?
Yes. She chairs because when she won, she made an MOU, and now she belongs to NRM with an MOU. But now that contradiction of Katakwi juxtaposed with Otafire. Otafire is a member of the Central Executive Committee. There are some 5 members who are appointed by the chairman. Otafire is one of them, Rogunda is one of them, Kiyonga is another, and then this Olero, the woman from Yumbe, and then there's another one. Now,
these 5, remember SEC is the top of the party, the highest organ of the party. Here you have a member of the highest organ is independent. Maybe some of you have not seen that. That you are a SEC member, the highest organ of the party, and you are standing
promoting party ideologies.
and then you stand independent. Even like Shema. Shema, you had Eliud at Mwesje, my good OB of Ontari School, who was one time an MP in 2 different constituencies. Eliud he is still chairman of NRM in the district chairman. But Eliud stood independent. And you have so on. So this issue of independence is an issue that needs discussion. And that therefore makes me push. Are we talking of an independent like somebody mentioned, or an independent that went through? My opinion is that we could agree that we should only have issues with independents who belong to political parties, who contested through other forums and want to be independent. I have no problem with somebody who wakes up and said, you know what, I know UPC, I know DP, I know NRM, but I don't. It is his right. Because if we kill it, then we're killing the freedom of choice. We're killing the inherent freedom of choice. So I think we would better take up issues with independence on political party members who have already registered in other political parties, or even gone ahead to contest at some structures, became chairman of the party, or became SEC member of the parties, and now, or even contested in primary. That to me should be the issue of independence. Now, if we agree that, then
maybe a second, Honorable Awich, you have not answered on whether you think that could be the reason, a result of Ugandans not having understood the principles of multi-party politics. And would you mind answering that? Because every problem...
If you don't mind, I think if it's that, for Comrade Rich, because Comrade Rich and I share this, if it's that, then it's less about Ugandans, although it's the same answer in a way, but in terms of emphasis, it's less about Ugandans, but more about the institutional organizations, in terms of the internal mechanism, and the individuals. And normally this would be people with reasonable profile. Someone who stands at a member of parliament equivalent is somebody away from what the Ugandan membership of the party elsewhere, you know.
Still, I could give my own view to your question, in that your question is whether people don't know multi-party or not. Multi-party, I think people know that multi-party is having more than one party choose. In fact, multi-party, the background understanding is as opposed to movement, one-party system. Because for a long time we have had a movement political system, which is one party. So multi-party is there. So people know it. To us, one of the causes we think that causes this independence is first of all disagreement on primary elections. So we thought that have a very credible registry. Go ahead and have a very credible primary. Then we see to what extent we go. Because if you look at the case of the vice president, there are incredible information which says that in the primary election, the voter registry in the party in that district was inflated by 40,000. Then somebody, and I think this is what made the president form an opinion that what you are doing is wrong. Because how can Electoral Commission be having this? And you tell me my party is 40 more. So there was that evidence. So if you have a credible election, we think in primary, we think you would have dealt a blow. But about understanding multi-party, but to some extent also, some people think that because we had been involved in a movement system which propagates individual merits, maybe some people have not yet picked the culture of multipartyism. Some people still think that some people are in a multi-party situation with a mindset of individual merit, which is a movement system. As to how true that one is, for us we think we should rely in the remedy of how to cure it. Credible registry, credible election system, where the loser knows he has lost. Not that the loser knows that the registry was inflated by 40,000.
But you see, Awich, in just a second, I want to also lend you some of these examples. That there are constituencies where, for instance, the president has gotten less votes and the very NRM candidate on a parliamentary seat gets more votes. It has been the practice also with the opposition. And that is what, in my view, and just perhaps so many people out there, think that either political parties like you, leaders and Honorable Ochieno and others, have not done either much to educate people about multipartyism. Because there is no way why a presidential candidate of the same party would get non-equal votes with the parliamentary candidate of the same party. So that means people choose, those very independents or party leaning. But you can proceed.
To some extent, maybe, because why I'm saying to some extent, we still have in a constituency, let's say constituency X, or say Doholo, Doholo South, you have a party manifesto, but you also have a flag bearer of NRM with a manifesto.
Yeah.
So this, to some extent, you'd say there's a disconnect between multi-party culture and the individual. Because how would you, a flag bearer of a particular party, have a different manifesto to the manifesto of the party? Ideally, you should be like for the Congress, who strongly believes in parties. That is so in the Labour Party and a Conservative Party in the UK. I think he would imagine that a flag bearer of a Conservative Party will clearly articulate the manifesto.
The principles of the party, yes.
Yes. So now you have, to that extent, whether you are only bound by the principles of the party or the manifesto of the party. Now that discrepancy is what leads to discrepancy in votes of the presidential flag bearer of the same party and the member of parliament for the same party. To some extent, we have had intelligence reports where even the party flag bearers tell the voters that mine is different from...
Yeah, sure. Even in opposition.
Mine about me, mine is different from that of Museveni. We have had credible intelligence reports saying that. So that leads to that. So to me, I'm saying, first and foremost, instead of going to educate people, what is multi-party, why should I dare to party? Because you seem to think that people are not aware, therefore we should give awareness. For us, we are still saying, start from what? Start from correcting the alleged weaknesses in terms of a credible registry, a credible primary. Then we shall watch and see who is this man who lost genuinely and still want to go as independent. Now, my colleague Matovu says one of the solutions is let the party members manage them.
Yeah.
I find it maybe the law in me that it's a solution that is not implementable. Because NRM now, we are talking of 18 million members. And you're telling me that the 18 million members should manage the party thing.
Maybe to delegate.
Will they all come to plot 10?
Maybe to delegate.
The thing is like this. Membership party is an organization. Like membership NGOs. Like if you have a membership NGOs like AMCAN, there's an organization called AMCAN, African Network for the Prevention and Protection Against Child Abuse and Neglect. Now this organization, you have members in Arua, Kasese, Tororo, where. So what they do, in their constitution or article of association, they form bodies. One, a board. This board will make policies. In the case of political parties, that is the SEC. Two, they have a secretariat to manage on their behalf. Because not everybody from Kasese, Tororo will come to manage. Okay. Then you have a secretariat. So I find myself at a loss.
It's ambiguous.
When my friend says, let the party members manage the members, will 18 million come to plot 10?
His theory remains ambiguous.
Rather, I am saying for us the cure is that for the mandated organ, the secretariat and the SEC and the NEC and the National Conference, which are created in the Constitution, because the National Conference, for example, is the ultimate power which can even amend the Constitution. So that is where the party members talk.
Then when they talk, they give powers to do. So I beg you explain more as to the making party members manage as opposed to institutions of the party to manage. So whether we bring all the 18 million people to plot 10 to manage the affair.
Mr. Ochieno, now suddenly we are left with strictly 3 minutes, unbelievable. But of course, we can't leave those 3 minutes. Do you find his strategy working, or his strategy working?
I mean,
precisely
they created the mess in which we are. We had a pluralist multi-party system until NRA came to power and banned political parties for 20 years.
You will use your minute to say...
And for the last 20 years...
Use your minute to...
For the last 20 years... No, I'll use my 1 minute, and I have very, very well. And then for the last 20 years, instead of allowing political parties to evolve, they've continued to use power, coercion, undermining parties and breaking parties, like in UPC, supporting interest groups and then using money to compromise our members and our leaders, and in many cases, like in my particular case, to find a matter of mine, which is a matter in court, to be held hostage in court, partly either because of incompetence or deliberately. But a quick question that you raised to Comrade Rich, and I intervened.
With your closing remarks.
And intervened. It's a closing remark. Was when you talk about whether or not the citizens are not sufficiently informed. No, I was intervening because we were emphasizing the structural element of it. But you're very right that the broader citizens of this country, for the reasons I've given, are not yet sufficiently allied to the reality of body politics. That when candidates come to them, they should see political parties and organizations that represent them, what is happening nationally. They tend to see individuals. No wonder they see individuals, how they dress, what they put on, and when they're particularly willing, they put whatever. Yes, our woman kind of on the mic, plus the money that is given, and the little things that they give around churches now, rather than the substantive thing that a member of parliament ideally should be able to represent them in that constituency, and what they should be able to go ahead and do in the August House. No wonder we now ended up with some very dubious people. What lady is that one in Kampala? The NRA is so indisciplined, they interrupt
kindly close, and of course I will give him one minute too, because he came late, so I want him to take advantage of at least 1 minute. Close.
He created it.
Close. Give your closing remarks, Mr. Vianney Ngoma.
Now, the problem and the hurdle we have not discovered is one. Ugandans, I will base on Ugandans alone, because we are talking on our affairs. Every reasonable Ugandans must be in ability with paper qualifications, banning other practitioners. For us Ugandans, the philosophy we have is that those chanced with schools are the best thinkers and they are the best reasoning. And those organs talked about, there are some of the organs a party member, whether has an art and a vision, cannot step there by restrictions of qualifications. That's the problem with us Ugandans.
So finally, in your view, one of the leading problems is
elitism. What they are calling individual merit, it's not how I determine and reason. It's how I went by papers and how I bring other qualifications called certificates and degrees.
Okay. Honorable Awich, kindly use a minute. And you make
I'm very good at closing. I don't open another debate. I don't open another. My closing remark is that...
But interject my end.
No.
My closing remark is
just a second. You reminded me back in the day, one of our classmates would say, in your, these discussion groups, he would say, literally everything is like, it's done. I will discuss the conclusion. So,
so me, what I'm saying is I'm not going to open a debate. I can open next time. But for now, what I want to say is that Uganda provides for political systems, multi-party, and also there's a provision for movement. But it says when one is in place, the other is in abeyance. Abeyance. The word used in the constitution is abeyance. So now that we still have multi-party, let us let our people learn through and go through the multi-party. But also for us political actors, we should learn to be fair so that we don't create independents who go through the party. But independents who walk straight away from home should be allowed. Therefore, if we are still using this system, which the Constitution, if one system is in place, the rest should be in abeyance, we should learn and develop the system. It could be young, but we can help to nurture it, we can help to make it grow with the challenges they are in.
Okay, thank you, comrades, for creating time, first of all, and also our viewers out there. I am reliably informed that effective Monday, this coming Monday, next week, the technical department at Ideologue TV has introduced a way through which our viewers can reach out directly. So they will be calling direct calls, and you will have to answer those tough questions from our viewers. So effective Monday, if we have been speaking, if we have been speaking half truth, or otherwise we shall get calls from.
Ready for questions.
Okay,
questions.
we shall be picking codes. Kudos, for lack of another word, to the production and the entire
well done,
team.
guys.
So we are going to be tapping into every person's views border to border through phone calls. The numbers are going to be running in all our shows. For now, a live engagement with all our guests. Keep it digital. Norman, I sign out.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.